Recorded.
In the Governor's March 15th, 2020 order concerning imposition on strict limitations in the number of people that may gather in one place, meetings in the town of Upton are being conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access proceedings as provided for in the order. Tonight's meeting, we're going to review minutes from the past 3 meetings. We're going to have an Eagle Scout presentation, a capital budget committee update, some grants that we need to accept, and funding requests for Upton Neighbor to Neighbor. We'll have recognition for Andrew St. George, our town manager report, and any public comment. So with that, why don't we go ahead and take a look at the minutes, Steve and Maureen, and is there any feedback?
Is Steve all set with the August 4th meeting?
I think it was actually the meeting prior to that, and yes, that looks better now.
Okay, so I think we have July 7th, July 14th, and August 4th.
I will make a motion to approve the minutes of July 7th, July 14th, and August 4, 2020. Maureen Dwinell, aye.
I'll second the motion. Stephen Metelian, aye.
Brett Simus, aye. So that's unanimous action. Thank you. And next on the agenda, we have Josh Crosby to share an Eagle Scout update. So Josh, welcome to the meeting. Nice to see you again. The floor is yours.
Thank you. So my project idea is to restore the flagpole area at Kiwanis Beach. So we are thinking of taking down the pole and putting up a new one, which would come with a new pulley system to help the flag go up easier. We're also looking at putting in solar lighting so that the flag can be flown at night, and also redoing the garden area around it. And we were thinking an upraised garden with 2 little rings around it, and I was thinking a walkway into the garden or into the pole so that you can raise up. So that's a project.
That's great. What looks wonderful. I love the idea of being able to illuminate it at night, and that light would shine down on the garden as well, which would be really neat. Where are you thinking of putting it, and what's your timing looking like?
Well, at this point, I don't know how much I'm going to be able to start actually working on it, as it's getting more into the fall, and so I will probably start working on it a little bit, starting to take out the garden and stuff, and then in the spring, then I am hoping to finish off the project. As far as placement, it would be in the same spot that the flagpole currently is at Kiwanis.
Perfect. Great. Sounds great. Maureen, Steve, any questions or feedback?
No, I just wish him all the best in completing his project for his badge.
Thanks.
Josh, just 2 quick questions. Were you actually going to be replacing the flagpole? That was question 1. And it made mention in your application that you were going to talk to some various groups for funding. So at this point, do you have all your funding in place for the project?
For funding, then I do not have that all set yet. I am hoping I need to send the proposal part into our Boy Scout Council first. And then after that, then it'll be making a set budget and then following up on like fundraising requests. What was the other question?
The other question was, are you actually replacing the flagpole that's there in addition to working on the garden?
Yes, so we are going to be taking down the flagpole and putting in a new one.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Thanks.
That's wonderful, Josh. It looks like a great project. Andrew, any comments from your perspective, since we're fortunate enough to have you here?
Yeah, I was just going to say, this is something that we've been looking at, trying to do for the last couple of years. The state of the current flagpole prevents the flag from reaching all the way to the top. So it gets tangled up around the ropes as you try to raise it. So we are flying the flag about 2 feet from the top all summer. So this is something that not only will it make it look better, but it's really something that's actually needed as well.
Great, good stuff. Okay, well, Josh, is there anything you need from us other than good luck?
Nope, I should be all set.
Well, congratulations on getting as far as you've gotten and doing all this work. Obviously, it's a tremendous amount of work just to get to where you are in the Scouts. So it's a really, really wonderful accomplishment. You should be very proud of yourself, and you certainly are. So thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have to make a motion to grant him permission to work on the property?
Yes, I was just going to say that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Eric, would that be correct?
Yeah. Yes, I was just going to mention that just take a formal vote, given the fact that this is going to be work on public property.
Okay.
Great, I'll take a motion.
I make a motion that we allow Josh Crosby to pursue this Eagle Scout project on the Kiwanis Beach property. Stephen Metellian, aye.
Maureen Dwinell, aye.
Brett Simus, aye. Unanimous action. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Josh.
Good job. Thank you. Do we have the Capital Budget Committee here?
Hey, Brett, Stan Lazars. I'm here. I believe Rick McGuire is here also.
Great. Hi, gentlemen. You guys wanted to update the board on your progress or work?
Yeah, so I can give a quick summary. As you can see from your agenda, we had provided a 4-page item. The first 3 pages is just the committee formally adopting and recognizing using a DLS sample guideline or sample policy and adopting it as a guideline for doing evaluation of capital. And the 4th page is just a summary of a write-up to go into the town website, because the town website has not provided an accurate description of the capital budget committee. The rest of the 45 pages is just our last meeting's slides, just to give the board some context, and also the original DLS Community Compact Best Practices report from the town of Uxbridge from a few years back that we had gotten that information from. We've been working with the manager for 2 years now, I guess a year and a half, almost 2 years, talking about the need to have a better structure and process of helping the manager per our bylaw charge with doing the actual SIP development and review and prioritization, as well as trying to figure out next steps for a better process going forward with doing reviews in an annual cycle. So this is what the board, this is what the committee has developed to date. Like I said, we kind of went through several different iterations and reads of these 2 documents. And in our last meeting on the 27th, we voted to adopt these as just guidelines for our committee to use. Specifically, we as a committee, of course, have nothing to do with adopting policy. That would be the Board of Selectmen's responsibility. But in talking to Derek and others, we believe this is a really good first step and start to a new capital plan that would be starting when the current one will finish up in the next calendar year, as we get forward and get ready to develop a new SIP, which I know Derek has started the process of looking out not just 5 years, but 10 years. and coming up with a more structured process. So what we're asking for the board tonight to do is just, I guess, an update. And one of the things from a permission standpoint was looking to get the website updated with that paragraph that's on page 4 of the attachment.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's great to see all of this work in progress, Dan. I know this is something, that you and I have talked about, directly and personally over the past couple of years, and you've really stepped up to help out with this work and with the planning process and engaging with Derek. So it's a lot of work, and we're very, very grateful for all the time and effort and energy that you and others have put into taking the ball this far down the field. So this is great. It certainly looks good to me. I think the draft of the formal description, we'll just have to, finalize that. I think the guidelines look great. Derek, I would love your perspective, as well as Maureen and Steve, your feedback or comments or thoughts. Derek, why don't you give us any context from your perspective, please?
So if I certainly would echo your comments, Mr. Chairman, that the Capital Budget Committee has put a lot of time and energy into developing these guidelines. This is something that we haven't had before. The only document we really had as a guiding document is the bylaw, which we can reference. But short of that, there was nothing else that really talked about the mission and process in which the Capital Budget Committee must follow. And I think this document does a lot of that. I would say that my only concern would be with the documents. There are multiple areas where it references the Capital Budget Committee's requirement to review projects in the context of the town's financial position, to help identify funding sources. And I did speak with the chairman of the Finance Committee today, who believes that the financing of capital is really within the purview of the Finance Committee and the Board of Selectmen as a whole, and not so much the Capital Budget Committee. So, in my prior experience, the Capital Budget Committee has always really focused on prioritization. And you can see on page 2 of their document, they have a really great process of how to prioritize capital needs, and then develop the report to go ahead and make that recommendation. So again, my only concern really is the language which has been feathered throughout this document about capital budget's authority in helping identify funding and understanding the town's financial position. And other than that, I'll turn it back to you.
Yeah, thank you. I think the other, that's a great pickup. I'm not sure that was necessarily intentional or not, but I agree with you regardless. And I think that my understanding of the way these committees typically work is, they basically track a pipeline of capital needs of the departments of the town and make recommendations sort of in a set order of prioritization to the Finance Committee. And then the Finance Committee takes that into consideration when they're putting together the budget for any particular year to submit on the warrant to the Selectmen, right? I think that's typically the way the process would work. So I don't expect that we would deviate from that in this, based on these new guidelines. So we should make sure that they reflect that. And I don't know, Stephen, Maureen, if you have a differing opinion, let's ask that question. But the other thing I would want to ensure is I did notice that there were several items listed for consideration that were, I don't know how we think about these things in terms of a capital plan, but things like the community center and a new DPW and those types of investments that, are they considered part of capital infrastructure, or those different types of strategic investments, and what is the best role for a capital budget committee or a capital improvement committee to play in those types of projects?
I would say any capital should be go through the Capital Budget Committee before it's submitted to town meeting.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a question on the description for the capital budget committee. It kind of circumvents the bylaw a little bit, I think, where it says the committee is to prepare a report for use by the finance committee, the voters, other town boards and officials to inform deliberations and consider the relative need, impact, timing, and cost of these expenditures have on the financial position of the town. I don't think that agrees with what is in the general bylaw. The general bylaw says the committee shall annually prepare a capital budget program for use by the finance committee, the voters, other town boards, and officials in their deliberations. The committee shall publish such report or summary thereof in a suitable manner and deposit the original with the town clerk. They're getting back into the financial end of capital budget, which I firmly believe that is under the finance committee. Can Dave speak to that? I don't want to vote for something in a policy that circumvents the general bylaw.
So, Maureen, that's a great question. I think, yes, as we put that together, that was an example of something that we were looking specifically how that bylaw reads. I guess the first thing that I would echo back to the board is we don't see this as just the capital budget committee's guideline. It would be the town's guideline, and whether it would become a policy someday in the future because it's been road tested and figured out, and what works, what doesn't work, how it needs to be adjusted to fit this town's needs. So it wasn't at all meaning to being, to take anything to do with what's really the primary responsibility of the finance committee. So I guess we look at the guideline as just the guideline for capital planning, period, and that involves all stakeholders really. Yeah. So we weren't looking at it as specifically just our guideline. And we didn't really adjust anything as it relates to, it's very little editing between what was published in the DLS sample guideline to that. So, but I think to your point, there could be some really good things to tweak to make sure that those responsibilities don't get assumed to be just ours. The only other thing about financing is it does in the scoring and ranking schedule, there is a ranking system for the financing component as it relates to grants and such. So, like I said, I don't think that's something that's specific, exclusive to the capital budget. It's something we would do in concert with the finance committee.
I would feel more comfortable if maybe you would put an article on town meeting and amend the bylaw to read that, because you and I are going to be gone someday and somebody else is going to take it under another way to go.
Yeah, that's why we made this just a guideline and not a policy or a bylaw. I think it needs to be road tested and worked on and used by the town departments, boards and committees to see what works and what does not work. And then to your point, Maureen, once it becomes something that has been vetted out that does work, then the board of selectmen can decide whether they're going to do something more than just a guideline. So we were very careful to make sure it was only a guideline and not a policy or a bylaw.
Well, could we take that portion out and vet it some more before we make it part of the guideline?
So the portion related to what?
The capital budget committee description 2020 final draft, and just go by the general bylaw that we have already and then vet something like this at the guideline right now?
Sure, we can go back and tweak that sentence. I'd be open to whatever kind of language you'd like to send back and edit so we can, as a committee, make an adjustment. So we're open to that completely.
Well, I think you have it in the general bylaw. You have the language for it. I don't know why the change, except for the financial position of the town and getting involved in the finances and expenditures.
Sure. So taking that out and editing out. Absolutely open to any edits as recommended by the board.
Yeah, totally. And I think this is great, Dan. And I certainly know and appreciate that you guys are trying to put something together that's a guideline that we can all talk about and to your point, road test and see what works and what doesn't work before we, adopt anything formal. And I didn't know, is what you're asking to be put on the website, is it those first 3 pages, and then that 4th page I thought was just an extra? Because if it's just the first 3 pages, I don't know, Derek or Maureen, if there were anything we'd want to change within those 3 pages, or is it really just the 4th page where we have the Capital Budget Committee description 2020 final draft that you are concerned with, Maureen? And I'm just wondering if we can sort of give the green light to publish those first 3 pages without the 4th page, or just wait on the whole thing and revise it and then look at it once more.
I also have a question on B on page 1 on the inventory. I mean, that's a huge undertaking for the town manager to do with all the equipment, buildings, HVAC systems, roofs, electrical, for the town manager to go back and put a plan together, or an inventory together of all the capital assets that the town has, how old they are, when we acquired them, when will they be replaced, how much will it be, the depreciation. I mean,
yep.
When they go before the Capital Budget Committee, all the department heads know what they have to have replaced. They know how old it is, when they bought it, how many miles, what condition it's in. I mean, that's a huge undertaking.
I love your perspective on this, Derek. I certainly have one, but why don't I defer to you?
So I would say let's start with page 4. I think that if we're going to publish page 4 on the website, I would agree with Selectman Dwinell that let's be consistent with the bylaw unless we change the bylaw. So I would agree there. The planning guideline, Dan, he used the term road testing it, that this is just a guideline, and let's see what works and what doesn't work. I would say that what we could possibly do is modify this guideline and put a watermark on draft on it, so people understand that this isn't an accepted policy and that we're going to see what works and what doesn't work. And I'll just use an example. As the Capital Budget Committee does their first review, when they do their ranking process, they may realize there are things that don't work in it, they have to modify. So I think we can look at it that way. But again, I do agree with Selectman Dwinell. See, for me, it's about let's not waste people's time. And if this paragraph B, it does require a high level of detail, at least how it reads, it requires a high level of detail, unless the Capital Budget Committee is thinking something more simplistic. And I wonder how much value we would gain by having the department heads go through this entire process of depreciation values and so on, and replacement schedule. Because I think Blythe, when she was here, she had a 5-year capital improvement plan. She had an extreme level of detail, which was really unnecessary until the day or the year it was to be replaced. So if we were to purchase a 5-ton dump truck today, do we want to depreciate that over 10 years and talk about the current condition in 4 years? I think that's a lot of work for our DPW to have to put into. So I'm okay with things staying as a draft, as long as we're all willing that we're going to work on it and see what works and what doesn't work, and what the high value areas are. But if this is going to be set in stone, then I think that we'd have to hold on this for a little bit and circle back and make some modifications.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I certainly, and sorry, Steve, I know you were trying to chime in earlier, so you can enter or come up after this, but I certainly would be fine with putting a draft watermark across all 4 pages, swapping out the 4th page with the existing language that we have in the bylaws. And so the first 3 pages are all sort of clearly labeled as draft. The 4th page is just what the existing bylaw is, and then we all agree and know when we talk to FinCom, about it, and make sure that we know that this is an exercise we're going to go through over the next, 3, 6, 12 months. and continue to review it. And you know, Dan, you and your group can, you know, make edits, make amendments as you go through it, take any feedback, anything that we run into. We can continue to make this a breathing document, and then maybe come back to it in, you know, 6 or 12 months after we've been working with it, and see if it's something we want to formalize. Does that make sense, Steve? I don't know what your thoughts are, please.
Yes, thank you. I mean, I think that there's a lot in that first section of those first 4 pages. And then when you get into the latter half of the document, I think as Dan had mentioned, the last, say 30 pages or so, some DLS recommendations. There's a lot on the DLS side, you know, that is, you know, it talks about reserves, it talks about different, you know, different financial situations or positions that the town may hold. So again, I think at this point, you know, this is a good, pretty accurate draft that we can work with in the short run. But I was also wanting to look at this and really kind of sit down with the capital committee and kind of get an idea of really, we have a lot built into our budget that are really capital items. So we really need to chart those as far as our expenditure side, you know, as far as the dollars and cents side. You know, it talks about road money in there. So we're going to, you know, consider our road money then as also part of that target goal of what we're going to invest in capital. So I think it's things like that I think we really need to kind of hash through. I know we've got in the near horizon, we've got a financial workshop kind of set up where we can all sit down together in a little less formal setting and maybe hash through some of those things. But yeah, I agree with you in that. Insofar as in the short run, yeah, I think a watermark across that would be a good idea until we can really think about that. You know, make sure that we're, you know, being not excluding FinCom or not, as you mentioned, Maureen, not giving FinCom's responsibility and therefore transferring it to capital. But I think the intent is really a team effort here. So I don't really see us stepping on one another's toes. I don't necessarily see it that way, but again, we've got to be careful I feel like we've got an awful lot of documents, and the last thing you want to do is approve another document that may have a contradiction to a former document. So, you know, I think we might want to work through that, you know, in the next several, like you said, maybe up to 12 months and take it from there.
Mm-hmm. No, I totally agree. The phrase that comes to mind is sort of unintended consequences, right? Like we all want to do the right thing. Everybody's working together. It's a great team. It's great progress. I don't want to come back in here and be like, oh, or have Paul Flaherty give us a call and say, you guys. So I think this is a perfect compromise. It's great. So with that, I think if you guys agree, we can take a motion to approve the publishing of this document on the website, or the posting of this document on the website with watermarks in the existing bylaw swapped out on page 4. Again, if you're both okay with that, I think that would be reasonable.
So let me just make sure I understand. You want to take the existing bylaw and put it in place of page 4 of this? Is that what you're thinking?
Yes, sir. That's what, yeah. Maureen, is that where your concern was?
No, but are we using this as a working document? And if we are, would we want to post it on the website?
That's certainly the question. I think that's what Dan was asking for, to show the community that there's been some progress and sort of pointing to some wins. I think it's, you know, not a ton of people are going to look at it or find it, but I think for me, at least, having it out there for the public, or at least giving them the option to consume it and look at it, is valuable, just so we can, you know, be transparent about all that's going on. But again, I think that was the intent anyway.
Yeah, Brett, that was the intent, just to have it as a reference document. We know that, like I said, the board's talking about months. We think it may take 1 or 2 years through a cycle to see what the final would look like.
Yeah.
So we're totally open to being, like I said, to your point, this is a team effort, crosses multiples.
So Maureen, are you comfortable with that, or would you rather hold off, or what are your thoughts?
Well, personally, I'd rather hold off. I don't want to put something out there with these, and don't get me wrong, it's a good document, but we have work to do on it. But have someone hold you hostage to it afterwards, that this was on the document and we're trying to change things now in midstream. I don't care if you put watermarks through it or whether, they'll hold you to it. That's just my thought.
What did you think, that the watermarks would just have the expression rough draft across them? Is that what you were thinking, or that would not be amicable to you, Maureen?
Like I said, I'd rather put a good document out there that we can live with and that we vote on, but putting this information out there, I mean, maybe they could give some suggestions, I don't know. But I don't want them to think that this is all etched in stone when we put it out there, and it's going to be hard to take back if you do put it out there. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I absolutely hear what you're saying. I mean, there's always a risk that somebody takes something and runs with it out of context or without having the context around it. So that's, I think we're all pretty sensitized to that kind of thing happening these days. At the same time, if we're trying to improve the document and the process, to your point, Maureen, maybe it won't happen, but maybe somebody would see it and say, hey, you know what, I noticed this, or I see this, or I have a question about this, which could prompt some improvement. But I think, I don't know, Derek, do you feel one way or the other is going to help us or hurt us much, or what are your thoughts?
I mean, honestly, we try to put as much as we can on the website in hopes that, folks engage in what we do. So to your question, I don't think it's going to hurt us or help us either way, because I think the vast majority of the people that are going to look at this document are the people that are on the screen right now. So I do appreciate the fact that Dan said this is a working document. That gives me a level of relief that we're not expecting the department heads to just jump right in this, because I do know with some of these requests, the DPW director may say he'll need an assistant DPW director just to do some of this capital work. So, and I don't want to put us in, a position that we're already setting ourselves up to fail. So yeah. Again, if it's a working document, I think we can certainly work within it.
Yeah, and I think, Dan, you can back us up on this, right? I think the intent is we want to be more disciplined about capital planning. We've had a process in the past, and it's I've only been here for 2 or 3 years, so I don't know how it's worked in the past, but this is an opportunity to sort of, rework it a little bit or refresh the exercise, professionalize what we're doing a little bit. And most importantly, go through a process of ranking, prioritizing, and being thoughtful about what we're doing over the next 5 to 10 years. And that's really the intent that's out there. So yeah, I don't feel strongly. Dan, would you be, comfortable with us sort of, looking at this, working it, but not putting it on the website for the reasons Maureen's mentioning?
Yeah, either way, I don't think the committee has any concern. At this point, we'd see that just being shared amongst committees. Whether it was on the website or not, it doesn't really that doesn't really mean that much. We just want the committee description to be more accurate and in line with the bylaw and our charge, because several of us have inherited the committee and that those things weren't actually happening consistently. So we're making sure they're going to happen consistently going forward. With regard to the whole guideline part of it, the other thing too is I think that as we get into having a finance department and as we get into using software in the future, some of the things we're talking about aren't going to take people. It's going to be technology tools that are going to really change things.
Yeah.
Being involved in the capital world in my full-time job, there's a lot, most things are coming out of a database and a computer.
Exactly.
Not an army of people. Those days of a room full of clerks are long gone.
All right, perfect. Derek, go ahead. You're going to say something, please.
I just wanted to mention, Dan brought up a point that we really haven't talked much about. Again, the Capital Budget Committee in the past 6 to 12 months have really tried to look at what's happening at that moment and try to make improvements. And I've had this conversation with Dan and other Capital Budget Committee members, but when I first got here, the Capital Budget Committee was honestly they were approving capital after the Finance Committee and the Board of Selectmen had already approved the warrant, and so by then it's too late. So I think, we're really trying to do a complete 180 to try to get the Capital Budget Committee to do all that vetting in advance. So, there's only one way, in my opinion, there's only one way to go, and that's up from where we were 2 years ago. So again, if this is a working document, I think this would be a great starting.
Great. Good. Okay. So that's
Just one thing real quick I was going to say, and what really just to finish up on what Derek was just saying, and the other thing too is Capital Budget Committee only weighed in on items over 100,000. So it's, the committee's got a lot more charge now just by changing that dollar value to 25,000. And again, I think moving forward, we just got to really, as far as, I really believe we spend a lot of money on capital, but a lot of it's built into our budget. A lot of these dollars are under that $25,000 threshold, but cumulatively they're significantly more. So I think those are the type of things we've got to really try to track to be as accurate as we can be. So
good. Okay, great. Well, with that, I think we can just move on to the motions around the grant. So Dan, thank you very much. Rick, thank you very much for all your time, effort, and any energy on this. Really, really great progress. You guys know it better than anybody how much of an advancement this is going to be over where we've been the past decade or so.
Thank you for your support and candid discussion, and we'll do our best.
Great, thank you. Chief DeFranzo, I think you're up with the first grant here. Is that right?
I'm not really sure. Is that, Derek, is that the executive office one? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, so about a week or two ago, we were awarded the grant that I had asked you guys if you wanted us to continue on with it. That was the one through the Executive Office of Public Safety, the Coronavirus Emergency Supplemental Funding Program. We asked for an electronic static disinfectant sprayer for $2,200. We were awarded that grant. So this piece of equipment we can use to disinfect apparatus, rooms, furniture, space. It's kind of, whatever we need to disinfect, we have the ability to do it safer other than what we were using before, which was a borrowed piece of equipment, and then we put together a homegrown auto body paint sprayer with disinfectant in it. So this will certainly bring us up to where we need to be. So I just need the board to accept the grant that was awarded to us.
Great. Love it. That's very, very helpful. Every piece of equipment that we get via grant is one we don't have to pay for, and it improves the public safety. So that's awesome that you guys go after these things, Chief. Steve, Maureen, any questions or comments? Otherwise, we can take a motion, please.
Did I miss how much the grant was for?
It was for $2,200, $2,200.
Thank you, Chief.
And it's,
I echo your thoughts, Brett. Good work with respect to getting this grant, Chief.
I'll make a motion to accept the Coronavirus Emergency Supplemental Funding Grant for $2,200. Maureen Dwinell, aye.
Second the motion, Stephen Mattelli and I.
Brett Simus, aye. Unanimous action. And then, Chief, the next one on here is accepting the dispatch training grant. I think it is Chief Bradley.
Yes, good evening. So I have two grants for you to accept, actually. It's 911 training grant is the first one in the amount of $37,397. That provides 32 hours of continuing training to each of our communications officers. That includes payment for training fees, certifications, salary, and overtime replacement while they're in training. That's the first grant. The second grant is also 911, but that's the emergency medical dispatch grant. That's the amount of $2,279. And that is for wages to reimburse staff for time spent doing quality assurance and analysis of our emergency medical dispatch program.
Awesome. Good stuff. Thank you, Chief. Steve, Maureen, questions?
No questions. Just a great job done.
Great job, Chief. I have the paperwork in front of me. I don't see the value of that second grant. You said it was 2,200 and how much?
$2,279 and so there should be a contract form with each grant that's been signed. So if I could to accept both those grants, that would be great.
Do you have copies of those, Steve?
I can do the first one. I will make a motion that we accept a grant in the amount of $37,397.07 for the 911 training grant. Stephen Mattellian, aye.
Maureen Dwinell, aye.
Brett Simus, aye. That's unanimous. Great.
Let me just see if I can find that second dollar value.
I have that one. I'll make a motion to accept the dispatch training grant for $2,279. Maureen Dwinell, aye.
Stephen Mattellian, aye.
Brett Simus, aye. It's unanimous action. Thank you, Chief. Appreciate all the work. Thank you. Good to see you both. Next on here, we have Janice to talk about the funding request for Upton Neighbor to Neighbor, as well as sharing a program update on this great. Sorry?
Hey, come.
Maureen, maybe you want to mute that. So Janice, thank you very much and welcome. Hope you're doing well.
I am, thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me tonight, because it's really my pleasure to report on the Neighbor to Neighbor program and what we've been able to do over the course of the last several months. As you know, this whole program was established to combat the issues that we're facing with the COVID-19 pandemic, which doesn't seem to be going away too quickly. So I've been able to assist many residents in town with a variety of things, including food, rent, mortgage, utilities, medical bills, car payments. We bought a freezer, we bought a car seat, groceries, and lots of emotional support, I can tell you, has been offered. So I've given you a report that establishes what we've spent the money on, details rather, the money. In summary, we've had 10 residents that we have assisted, and I apologize, I have already gone over the $10,000. It's $10,269.69 to date, and which is why I'm coming before you asking for additional funds. But I also wanted to share with you a little bit of additional information. We have a food pantry at the senior center that we've had a couple of private donations specifically for that, totaling $1,150. And I've spent $174 out of that. Our food pantry right now is depleted. So we are putting a call out for donations of food. To date, we've had 42 seniors come and families come in and utilize it, with a total of several of them coming multiple times. It's 93 different visits. So it's being very, very well utilized. We are also informing folks in the community of the other food pantries at in town, so that they have access to all kinds of things. So the Bloomer Girls, I just wanted to update you on that as well, because the majority of the donations were submitted to the Bloomer Girls. So they've received $3,774.54 in donations. To date, they've spent $2,694.44. That has gone towards the grocery shopping that they've done for people. So that was a balance as of June 1st of $1,080.10. But they've also just given me a whole bunch of gift cards. I believe a total of $150 in gift cards to give out. So that number is being depleted. So all of that being said, I do come before you asking for additional funds for the neighbor to neighbor. It is my thinking now that we need to do another big push to let people know that this program is available. Like I stated earlier, I do not feel this, and I think that this is a general consensus, that this issue is not going to go away anytime soon. So therefore, we need to be reaching out to folks in the community. We had a little bit of an ease up with unemployment when folks were getting that extra $600 a month. Or a week, excuse me, but now that's gone. I think it's down. If they get anything, it's what, $300 a month, a week, I believe. So I anticipate people coming forward. I can tell you, I have spent countless hours on the phone. These are just the people that we've provided the financial assistance to, never mind the emotional support that we have been providing has been, for me, personally and professionally, very satisfactory, because I'm really being able to help people, but also it's emotionally draining on me because it's, my goodness, these people are living through very, very trying times that you wouldn't wish, you just wouldn't wish anybody going through. So that's my report in a nutshell. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Janice. That's really wonderful. I mean, it's obviously great stuff that you all are doing. So thank you to you and to Jessica. I'm sure you guys have been very busy with all of this. How's Jessica doing?
Jessica's doing well, and can I add that Bernadette Denson has been also my right-hand person. She has made the phone calls, a lot of the phone calls out in the community. I'd say, I can't even say, close to 500 phone calls have been made, if I was to put a guesstimate. So between the three of us, we are out there working very hard.
Phenomenal. Really, really, I mean, great stuff. That's one of the things that makes Upton extraordinary, that we have the ability to do this and the resources to do this, both financial and human, and people that are interested, willing, and able. So that's awesome. I can tell you, and I think you guys all know my position on this, is that I'm a big supporter of doing everything we can to distribute Ella Ristine's welfare funds as far and as wide as we can in the community. And this is, a perfect example where we've taken the step of putting some, I'll call it a distribution capability in place, and it's starting to work. And I think that over time we can build even more and more momentum as more and more people realize, frankly, not that they're in these terrible, dire straits, but that they could use some help, and that some help is available. And that, just because they're not in the most difficult of places that you may see in other communities and other towns, that, in Upton, everybody's doing relatively well. But if people are struggling even a little bit, there are resources to get the help they need. So I'm a fan of, obviously reinvesting in this program and allocating, as much money as Maureen and Steve think is appropriate. So Steve or Maureen, what are your thoughts on this one?
My thoughts would be to go with the $10,000, and they have done a wonderful job. Their efforts with helping people and providing all this help for them, I think they deserve it, and I'd be willing to go with the $10,000 that Janice is requesting.
I would agree with you, Maureen. I'm not sure, I didn't hear exactly the number that you'd asked for, Janice, but yeah, I think that would be a good place to, again, to duplicate what we did last time. And again, the three of you have done a wonderful job reaching out to residents and helping along in these difficult times. So I would be amicable to $10,000.
Okay. So that's fine. The only thing I would ask, Janice, is that at no point do you stop the great work you're doing or slow down all of the great work and outreach that you're doing because you feel like you're going through this money, or you don't want to run out of the $10,000, or you're at $9,000 and you only have $1,000 left. Like, from my perspective, as soon as this $10,000 is gone, you're going to get another $10,000. So, what I personally would ask is that you do everything you've been doing and work as hard as you can and are comfortable with to distribute these funds, knowing that, we're here to support you. And, we can't just say, here's $100,000, but, you'll get whatever you need in $10,000 tranches as long as you can. As certainly as far as I'm concerned, I can't speak for Maureen or Steve, but I think that they would agree that, we want to do everything we can to help people, and you guys are a great avenue to do that and doing great work. So just don't slow down.
If I could just say, that's why I went over the 10,000, and that was just this past Friday. It was somebody that needed their rent paid, and I had a feeling that you guys wouldn't let the residents down, and I certainly will continue what our mission is. And I don't hesitate, and I'd love to come before you and share with you where the money is being spent, and let the residents and people that have donated to this fund as well, to the Bloomer Girls, to let them know that their money is being used to good use, and not just sitting somewhere. So thank you, I appreciate it.
Great, thanks. Maureen or Steve, I'll take a motion. That's awesome.
I'll move that we provide the $10,000. Is it from the Racine?
Mm-hmm.
From the Racine account to should we do it through the Council on Aging?
I think the neighbor to neighbor.
Yeah.
And, okay, neighbor to neighbor. Well, the $10,000.
Did you
From
want to
the
make that out of the Racine Welfare Fund? Is that what you were thinking?
Yes. Is it?
Welfare Fund.
Yes. Maureen Dwinell, aye.
Stephen Metellian, aye.
Brett Simus, aye. Great. Thank you. Thank you very much, Janice.
You're welcome.
And was there anything else regarding this? I know there was a note here about the Bloomer Girls. Is that part of this same conversation? I just want to make sure we're not missing anything.
So I can have this conversation. I thought that Donna McNaughton was going to be joining us, but I don't see her on. So the Bloomer Girls are requesting $12,000 to fund their holiday season giving that they do between the gift baskets and the gifts for the families in town. And what we've talked about is collaborating with and having list of our seniors that we give to, the list of folks that the Bloomer Girls are familiar with that need assistance, and also now folks that we've helped with the neighbor to neighbor program. So I guess I'm speaking on behalf of them. I'm not a member of the Bloomer Girls, but I know that that's what the request was for the $12,000 to pay for all the Thanksgiving and Christmas baskets, food, gifts.
Thank you. Go ahead, Derek.
I just wanted to, because I spent a little time with Denise Smith this afternoon. She's one of the Bloomer Girls, and she did say that this was a unique request, that most other years, well, all other years, they would do this fundraising on their own. But because of COVID, it was very challenging to do fundraising. So they do expect that this will be a one-time request, and that assuming things would return to a level of normalcy next year, they would go ahead and resume their normal fundraising, working with the Men's Club and others as they have done in years past.
Okay, that's great. You know, I'm very familiar with, as I think we all are, the great work that the Bloomer Girls do and do quietly, frankly, supporting this community. I think they're, you know, under-recognized for what they do, other than by a small handful of us that are in tune with what goes on with these types of things in town. But I'm clearly a huge fan of everything they do, and we've worked with them through the Men's Club. And certainly the Men's Club has donated to them to the tune of a few $1,000s a year, you know, for as many years back as I can remember. And I think that's probably going to be a challenge this year, given that the men's club fundraisers are being canceled, the fireworks were canceled, etc. So it's going to be a tough year for everybody, and certainly it's something that I would support. But I know these are unprecedented times, and I'm not sure exactly how this works with regard to, the policy around the welfare fund. So I think we need to figure that out and maybe talk to KP or whomever to make sure that we're following whatever protocols we need to be following. But, I certainly would support making this donation.
Brett and Maureen, I just want to make mention, my wife is a Bloomer girl, so it is probably a good idea if I recuse myself for this. But again, they do excellent work throughout the town, as you've mentioned, Brett.
Fair enough. Okay. Thank you for that. I didn't realize that. I mean, I guess I did, but not until you mentioned it.
And I'm in full support of doing this for the Bloomer girls. Would this also be coming out of the Racine welfare?
Yes.
Okay. So I would make a motion to give to the Bloomer girls for their holiday support $12,000 from the Racine Welfare Fund. Maureen Dwinell, aye.
Brett Simus, aye. Majority action. Great. I think that's a testament to Ella Racine and her generosity. So I think we should do everything we can to mention her name and her family and her legacy, because this is all their hard-earned money that they're giving back to the community. It's not ours, so we're ever grateful to her and her family. Okay, so with that, I think we are down to recognition. So Andrew St. George is here. Derek, I want to hand the floor over to you and share where we are, what we're here with Andrew for.
Sure. So I'm just going to quickly turn this over to Debbie Morelli. Deb is, as we all know, one of the Recreation Commission members who thought so highly of Andrew that she wanted to make a few comments based upon a lot of the great work he's done this past summer, not only with the commission as a whole, but certainly with the Kids at Play program. Deb?
Thank you, Derek. I think everyone on this call knows Andrew and the work that he does, but I just want to describe briefly that he oversees all of the recreation programs, Kiwanis Beach, and the town-owned athletic fields. But tonight I really wanted to talk a little bit about his work this spring and summer with the Kids at Play program and the other summer events. The Kids at Play program ran this summer from June 22nd to August 28th. And I think it's important to note that many, if not most, towns in Massachusetts did not even run their summer programs. So, he accomplished something that a lot of other towns did not even attempt. So I think that's important. Andrew and his program directors took on the challenge of creating a fun program, but a program that would keep kids safe during the summer. The Recreation Commission reviewed his plan before the summer began, and the Board of Health also reviewed the plan, and everyone thought it was well thought out and very detailed. A couple of comments from parents during the course of the summer. We had a parent write in and tell us, my son is having an absolute blast at camp. I can't express how grateful I am that you guys opened and he has gotten this chance to experience such a great program during such a crazy time. And another parent wrote later in the summer, my son couldn't stop talking about how much fun he had today. We thought he'd ask us to pick him up early because it was raining, but he said that it was one of the most fun times he had. The parent just wanted to send a quick note of thanks and appreciation because we allow kids to play in the rain and not make them, hide inside. So I thought those two comments were indicative of the kind of summer that we had. So the program served a total of 202 individual children over the course of the summer. The average was 70 kids a day, so that's a lot of coordination and organization. Andrew hired and supervised a staff of 49 people at all levels, from directors to lifeguards to the gatekeepers collecting money at Kiwanis. And speaking of Kiwanis Beach, many towns, including nearby Grafton, did not open their beach this summer. And so, again, we were able to accomplish something that a lot of towns didn't even attempt. So I think it's important to really recognize that. For the concerts, I don't know, I think everyone on this call is aware that the Recreation Commission puts on summer concerts that are free on Wednesdays during the summer. Again, we weren't sure we were going to be able to have these concerts because of social distancing and other rules. So, but we ended up running 4 concerts. They were well attended. We sold food. Everybody had a good time. The bands gave us good feedback. And people had an opportunity to get outside once a week and go to a free concert and have a burger. The social distancing setup for the concerts were excellent. He moved the location to the baseball field, and there were markers separating the 6 feet so that everyone knew where they could sit. So there was plenty of room for everyone, and people had a good time. We nominated Andrew, as you can see, because we think he did an exceptional job this summer during the pandemic in doing things that so many people and so many towns didn't even attempt. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Deb. It's just awesome. So, Andrew, congratulations. Thank you. Really, it's just so heartfelt. I talked to my daughter and several of her peers, several that went to Kids at Play, several that said they wish they could go, including my daughter, who asked to go to several events. And everything you and your staff put in this year was extraordinary under extraordinary circumstances. And it was all done with public safety in mind. We've seen that there hasn't really been any spread within the town. Certainly, nothing coming out of what was done by the Recreation Commission, and all those great activities and services that the town was able to take advantage of safely are a testament to you and your vision and your action and your effort and your hard work. And we've all been around here long enough to know that, sometimes things are going well and sometimes people are in the hot seat, and you've had your fair share of time in the hot seat. So I'm thrilled to have your hard work and your contributions to this community recognized in such a public way, because it's really impressive, and you've always done a great job. And this is just a further example of that dedication to the community. So thank you and congratulations. Steve?
I'd also like to say thank you, Andrew, for a great job and for caring so much about the children in the town, and making sure that they had a good time where they've been stuck in the house all summer and can't go anywhere. I think you made this summer for them, and thank you again.
Yes, good work, Andrew, and very nice testimonial. Obviously, the RecCom thinks highly of you, and you've done a great job this year. Keep up the good work.
Well, thank you, guys. If I could just quickly say that, obviously none of this would have been possible without, my program directors, especially, the Kids at Play director, Carson Hope. She came in pre-season with me to help plan. There was a lot of planning and a lot of moving parts, and there's no way I could have done it without them. And also our entire beach team. This year we had a lot more incidents in the water. I think there was 14 incidents total that required a lifeguard to go in the water, and we had no serious outcomes as a result of their hard work. So obviously this doesn't happen in an office. This happens with the people who've got their feet on the ground out there doing the work day in and day out. So I appreciate this, but I also, very much want to acknowledge my staff, and I appreciate them as well.
Awesome. That's great. A great reminder. Thanks, Andrew. Great. Derek, anything else from your perspective, or do you want to move on to the town manager report?
I'd like to do both, actually. I think that, we just heard a lot of the great work from Janice Nowicki and her team. We heard a lot of the great work from Andrew St. George and his team. All of this typically goes unnoticed because they live in what I'll call like the health and human services world. And so they don't have red lights and blue lights where people see them driving down the street and they can actually see the work that's happening each and every day. But the work that the Recreation Commission and the Council on Aging do every day, it touches so many lives. And I think that tonight is great to have them both on the agenda together because it really speaks to kind of the human services aspect of the work that we do. So again, Andrew, great job. Janice, I always say you do a great job, and I know you've been waiting a long time to present the Neighbor to Neighbor program, so thanks for hanging in there. So I just wanted to thank them both publicly as well. But moving on to the town manager's report. So we're still scheduled for town meeting on November 10th. Right now, to date, we haven't received any articles submitted. However, I do believe there will be a handful of CPC articles coming forward this week. So we'll have to think long and hard as to town meeting. The finance department is still working with the bank regarding one of the financial articles, which is really probably going to be the article that necessitates town meeting this fall. That being said, I would expect that it would be a very short town meeting if it takes place. So something I just want to put on the Board of Selectmen's radar for consideration for next week. If we do decide that we have to have town meeting, it requires a quorum of 40 individuals to hold town meeting. I would be concerned with such a small agenda that we may not get the turnout, especially that we know it'll be inside. We know that some folks are worried about COVID-19 still. There is a statute that was passed this past spring that allows town meeting quorum to be reduced to 10%. So in this case, 4. It could be as little as 4, but we would have to take action in advance of town meeting. So it's something to consider. And the question really is, do we want to take that type of action to reduce town meeting to, it can't be less than 10%, so we could pick a number, maybe 50%, whatever the number is. But we want to make sure that if we're going to put all this energy and effort towards town meeting, that we still are able to hold a quorum. So I'm just planting that seed for something to think about in the next 2 to 3 weeks. Tomorrow, you will notice if you go past the VFW parking lot, there will be a team out there. The parking lot will be closed and access to the playground on the front side will be closed as well. There will be a team doing borings over there. There was 5 different layouts that was presented by the T2 architecture team. The building committee has chose 2 of those plans as potential possibilities, and they're going to conduct the borings tomorrow based upon those plans. And at that point, we'll have more information as to what we can actually place on that lot. Moving on, meeting with the DPW director today. The Fowler Street Bridge is moving forward, and actually it's ahead of schedule. He's expecting for the Fowler Street Bridge to reopen. He's thinking maybe October 1st, but certainly in the early October time period. So again, that wasn't supposed to be reopened until early to mid-November. So we're 4 weeks ahead of schedule on that one. Code has looked at their statistics as of late, and thankfully we're still keeping pace with the building construction same time last year. So we haven't seen a real drop-off as far as the number of building permits that are being pulled. So again, we will continue to expect similar new growth next year that we had this year. Just as a reminder, September 26th is Heritage Day. That has been approved by the Board of Health to hold Heritage Day. The organizers of Heritage Day said that they will be able to keep it under 50 individuals. That is Governor Baker's order, no more than 50 individuals at a mass gathering. They believe they'll be able to maintain that. And they haven't requested any indoor use of Town Hall. So I would suspect that if there is a rain, the Heritage Day events will be canceled for that day. And then lastly, I just want to report that we talked a little bit about it here and there, but you all may recall a couple of years ago, the town signed an agreement with Nexamp to provide energy credits through a solar array field in Seekonk, Mass. We just got notice that that is now live. That is live effective August 19th. So now that we'll have a full year ahead of us, the projected electricity savings to the town is projected to be annually north of $40,000 per year. So it's great news that we're finally able to make that connection and start to receive those energy credits. I will turn it over to the chair unless I have any questions.
That's great. I'm glad to hear all those updates. It's definitely good stuff, and $40,000 a year is $40,000 a year we'll take. That's awesome. I don't have any other questions other than, as always, a thank you to you and all the departments that are doing all the great work. Derek, we appreciate it. Steve, Maureen, any questions for Derek?
No, I don't have anything at this time.
Okay.
Me either.
Great.
Brett, can I ask a quick question?
Please do. Yes, sir. Mr. Moderator.
Yeah, thank you. I'm glad Derek talked about the town meeting because one of the things I was wondering is whether we would have it or not. So everything you said sounds great, and if we could do the 10%, that's wonderful. I do know, though, that there are certain restrictions with regard to the types of articles we can have if we use the 10% rule. I don't know the details behind that, but I just want to make sure that we dot the I's and cross the T's with making sure that whatever articles we do have on the warrant, that it fits in with the guidelines of the 10% rule. So I just wanted to point that out real quick. So
that's great. Thank you. Yeah, we definitely, yes, absolutely. And it's a great reminder to make sure that we've covered all the details when we make changes like this. It's really important. So thank you, sir.
Thank you. Yep.
Okay. Any new business? Any public comment? Okay, well, thanks everybody. This was a great meeting. We appreciate everybody's time. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn the meeting. Maureen Dwinell, aye.
Second the motion, Stephen Metellian, aye.
Brett Simus, aye. Thanks everyone. We'll talk to you later.